Biden can't handle it. I think that's just the reality that Americans have come to recognize. They voted for the nice guy in his basement, that just seemed like kind of grandfatherly and would keep the status quo, and look at where it got them. It got them to a point of record inflation, massive number of migrants coming in, unlike anything we've ever seen. And it got them to the point where they're not willing to elect Joe Biden, it seems, again. Brand new poll numbers out showing that, this is a guy whose approval rating has sunk to levels we've never seen before. I don't think any president, certainly not in modern times, has seen this bad of an approval rating. Let's go to Nate Silver from 538, who's showing us this graphic. Take a look at the green. Okay, the green is the approval rating. Look at where Biden's approval rating is right now, 37.6%. Look at the red, which is the disapproval rating. So the disapproval is going up and the approval's going down. Nate writes, Biden just hit a new all-time low in approval, 37.4%. Forgive me. 0.2% extra I just gave him. It's not 37.6, it's 37.4 at 5:38 yesterday. Dropping out would be a big risk, but there's some threshold below which continuing to run is a bigger risk. Are we there yet? I don't know, but it's more than fair to ask. In other words, Nate Silver is asking, how the heck can the Democrats run this guy? I mean, you got a lousy approval rating, buddy. Really lousy. Nobody thinks you can do the job. You're falling asleep over there in France. You're stumbling when you get on and off the plane. People are looking at you saying, are you okay? Right? I mean, it's a real question to be asking right now. Are you okay, Joe Biden? I think the majority of the population believes he's not okay. So how can you be running the United States of America when you're not necessarily playing with everything upstairs? Wall Street Journal had a piece just the other day. They interviewed multiple Republican and Democrats, I believe 45 of them, on Capitol Hill. And the consensus overwhelmingly was that Biden was not there anymore. So how are you going to elect him to 4 more years? Well, you're probably not. I mean, the reality is Donald Trump is, in essence, running against Kamala Harris. Now, I have a feeling they'll save that. They'll save that. I mean, Donald Trump, he knows what he's doing. He's going to save that whopper for a little bit later down the road because, I mean, Joe Biden's beatable, but you want to talk super beatable? Now we're talking Kamala Harris. So Nate Silver asking the right question here. Let's go to his second tweet. He did say that what's clear in his opinion is that Democrats, quote, would have been better served if Biden had decided a year ago to not seek a second term, which would have allowed them to have some semblance of a primary process and give voters a say among the many popular Democrats across the country. Okay, so Nate's right. And this is what I said, a year ago? I mean, not that they're going to take my advice, but I'm astute enough in these things to have been able to tell you that you can't run Biden again. And I said this was the mistake the Democrats made with Jimmy Carter. I mean, the good news is we wouldn't have gotten Reagan, right? But the big mistake the Democrats made way back then in the late 70s in an inflationary environment where you had conflict in the Middle East and a very depressed voter base. I mean, you even think about the images back in the 1970s. I was a little kid. You think about that. And it's almost like you see it in those orangey colors. I mean, think about it. People were wearing mustard orange, for goodness sakes. Mustard orange and lime green and burnt brown. I mean, this was the 70s. This was Jimmy Carter. And all of a sudden, Reagan came along and, I'm not much of a fan of the 80s styles, but all of a sudden it got turned on its head, right? Bright, happy neon colors, big hair, lots of lip gloss, like a very, very different environment. It felt more cheerful almost immediately. The styles changed, the psychology changed. And guess what? Inflation got flipped on its head. It was not easy, but you had Volcker there at the Fed. You had Reagan in charge. He understood that better policy by lowering tax rates would actually increase GDP. I mean, some of this stuff is not that hard, really. We talk a lot about it at 76research.com. If you haven't subscribed to my financial newsletter, I co-founded this company with a very dear friend, longtime stock picker, who's literally, I kid you not, brilliant when it comes to this. Brilliant in terms of selecting stocks. And that's exactly what we're doing in each of the portfolios, 3 model portfolios that you can choose from, 10 to 15 stocks each. So go over there, look at the model portfolios at 76research.com. Do that today. You should also subscribe to our YouTube channel because we got lots of information there. In fact, we just did a live show on Friday, and there's a lot more coming your way there that you can get all for free at 76research on YouTube, 76research.com online. But my point is, you know what? Reagan got it right. And he had smart people like Art Laffer around him, and they got the economic policy right. And Volcker was able to bring down inflation. I mean, we need that. We need that morning in America again, right? We need something because it really feels like Jimmy Carter on steroids. And the funny thing is, I was looking at some of your comments, guys, because you've heard me say this before. And you're like, yeah, Trish, but the difference is Jimmy Carter was at least a nice guy. I don't know Biden that well, but I will tell you, I have a friend who's a Democrat who is pretty high up in the party. Yeah, you see, I actually have friends that are Democrats. Imagine that, right? But he did tell me that he's kind of a nasty SOB. Really, he's not very nice. So I think about that, and I think about some of your comments that you guys have made about how, you know what, the difference between Biden and Jimmy Carter is really that there's some personality and just warmth there that seems to be lacking for Joe Biden. I just look at it and say, my gosh, you know, you're willing to put your son under the bus effectively. And that's what, you know, going and running for president meant, that he really would be throwing his son under the bus.